Alright everybody, so in the last video we've animated our bat so that it lands on Snoopy's doghouse, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create some expressions and link some things together to make those wings flap like they're supposed to, and have to do all of the keyframing only once because we're going to use an expression to drive the second wing. Okay, so it's a little bit of complex, not too complex. It's actually quite simple, but it sounds harder than it really is. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into After Effects and have a little fun with expressions. Alright, so here we are in After Effects. I've got my bat right where we left off. He flew in, landed, looks great. Okay, so, but we've got to get those wings to do what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, he's just going to fall out of the sky. So how do we do that? Let's take a look at the bat. So we've got the bat right here. I'd already double clicked on him, so he's wide open like that. So we need to make some adjustments, and we need to make some adjustments to the anchor points of each of the wings. So first thing though, before we do anything, we need to make these wings three-dimensional. To do that, we're going to click this box over here next to our wing layers. Okay, that makes these three-dimensional. If I click on both of these, I'll select both of those layers just by holding Shift. I'll click the letter R for rotation. And now you can see there's an X and Y rotation out there. Not too bad. So let's adjust our anchor point. So this one, the top one for me, is my left wing. So I'm going to double click on my layer, and you can see there's the anchor point right there. And I'm currently in my layer view just by double clicking the layer. It's in the layer view. If I select this up here, we've got a tool called Pan Behind, or the Y key. If I pan behind, I can actually move my anchor point for my layer just by doing that. Pan behind without changing the position of my layer. So I'll show you what I mean. There you go. So it almost looks like, if you're familiar with animation, and it looks like we put a joint almost right on that shoulder of the bat. Let's take a look at the second one. The second layer is, for me, is my other wing. So I'm going to double click on that. You can see how it's off. I'll use my Pan Behind tool and just kind of move it right down here like so. Like looks good there. Come back to my composition, and there you go. So I've got 1, 2, and then of course right in the dead center, 3. So here comes the fun part for rotation. Okay. So let's animate the left wing, this one here. If I animate the wing itself, I'm going to have some issues later on, especially when it comes time to animate the right wing. So what can we do? Let's do all of this work inside the main comp, and then we can, that way it's easier for us to animate when we start and stop the flapping of the wings, because we can see the whole scene. But we can link the rotations within the bat composition to what's going on in the main comp. So let me show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stack my composition so I can see both of them at the same time. To do that, I'm going to take the bat layer and kind of move it down here just like so. So I've got the bat composition down below, and I've got my main comp up on top. Let's minimize some of these things here for us. Okay. Then what I like to do is use what's called a null layer. Null means it's not renderable, it's not visible, it's just there. And a lot of these are used for parenting and easy animation stuff and things like that, but I use them for a couple other things. So let's create a null object. I'm going to go to Layer, New, Null Object, and there it is. You can see it's just this little red box. It doesn't do anything. It's just kind of there, but it allows you to manipulate other items that are parented or grouped with it. So you can scale up a group together and all of that stuff, or move a group of stuff together. But for us, we're going to use the null object to run some expressions. So in my effects controls for the null object, let's add an effect. So we're going to go effect, expression controls, and we're going to use a slider control. Yes, a slider control. All right, so in this slider control, right now it's 0. So let's first parent one of the wings to this slider. Now, I know my left one is going to work, so let's use that. I'm going to take the rotation of my left wing, the Y rotation, okay, and I'm going to parent that to the expression up here. Let's expand this out so we can see this a little bit more. Effects, slider control, there we go. So now in the bat layer down below, I'm going to alt-click on my stopwatch. Again, alt-click on my stopwatch. And it's going to come up with this, transform.y rotation. This is an expression, okay, where you can write some expressions in. You can write some things in there. We're not going to write anything right now. What we're going to do is take this little squiggly, it looks like an ampersand. It's called the pick whip tool. Okay, if I click and hold that down, it's got like a little rubber band on it. And I'm going to drag that rubber band up here under slider, like so, and just let it go. And you can see it automatically fills a bunch of stuff in for you. Once you're done, just hit return or click off of it. And there's your expression. Well, what does that really do? Well, let's go back here and make some adjustments to the slider control. I'm going to click the stopwatch there. Actually, let's change the stopwatch to the initial keyframe to, like, say 65. Okay, we'll come out a little ways. You can see it's bent. All right, well, let's see, what else can we do? If I bring this out like so, and then I'm going to type in another number. Let's do a negative 45. Let's make it a negative 65 so we can actually see it. There we go. All right, let's do another one. Let's see here. 65, negative 65. I'm going to select those two keyframes, hit Control C, come out a ways, hit Control V. I'll do it a couple more times. Let's take a look at this. Kind of looks like it's flapping. Well, let's keep doing that. Control C, Control V. Copy those, Control C, Control V. All right, I'm going to delete those two for now. Something like that. Okay. I'll hit F9. All right, so you've got one wing that's kind of flapping, right? So let's get the other one so that the other one's doing the same thing. Well, that's actually pretty easy. We just have to do some basic math. Think about some basic math. So we need to go in the opposite direction because it's bending. Right now it's going left to right. We need the other wing to go right to left. So to do that, we're going to do an expression, but this time we're going to add something to the expression. So let's Alt down here in our bat layer. Okay, you can see it. You can see it's flapping, right? Our bat layer, we need to do some changes. So we're going to Alt click on our stopwatch again. We're going to pick whip, grab our pick whip tool, aim it at the slider like so, and let go. But we're not done here. We're not done. To get it to go the opposite way, we need to multiply this by a -1, right? To get a negative number, to get the opposite number. Now, basic math, right, tells us if we multiply negative by negative, we'll get a positive, right? So that will that will fix it. So if I leave it like this, just for seeing it, let's click on this, and I just kind of, whoops, and I just kind of scrub through. It doesn't look like it looks like the wings are spinning, right? They're not going together. So if I add a multiplication, so times, there we go, times -1, and hit enter. Now they're actually flapping. L1 slider control. Yes, now they're actually flapping. So let's take a look. Let's jump out to our big scene here and see how it looks. Yeah. Now they actually look like they were flapping. Now, hit Control S to save it. One thing I can tell you to make your life a lot easier when it comes to doing this, do you see how this character is kind of tilted? Why don't you make sure that this character is actually rotated so that they're level. Doing that will help your rotations look a lot smoother. It'll help you aim your character more when it's animating. It's one thing I should have done before I got started here, but I did not do that. I could probably still do it now if I took this here like so. And this is actually good where if I say new null object, right? And I'm going to select this null object and parent that, or select my layers and parent it to the null object and say rotation. This is where a null object comes in handy, because you can really work your group together like so. Okay, so that's a quick fix there. Another reason why we can use null objects, or another way we can use null objects. When I come into my main comp, yeah. All right. That is essentially it. We've animated the scale, we've animated rotation, we've used 3D text, or excuse me, 3D text. We've used 3D layers and used an expression to run those layers and rotate those layers into making something look like it's flying. Okay? I hope this helps with your video and your project coming up this week, and I look forward to seeing you all in class.